Imagine having access to a tribe of mentors consisting of some of the best tech leaders in the world, people you may have never heard of, but who in just an hour, you'll know their unfiltered career story. The bets they took, the decisions they made, where they failed, and the lessons that they learned along the way. Welcome to the What Makes You Tick podcast. I'm Tolu, aka the Podfather, and I'm the host of What Makes You Tick.
Hello, Podfather. I am Richard. I am the owner of Tick Talent, and we sponsor this week's episode, which I know is a very good friend of yours. So tell people, who are we going to meet today?
So this week's episode is with Michael Akinlé. So we volunteer for the same kind of music organisation together, which is how we met. What did you think?
Fantastic. Yeah, so I've had a couple of conversations with Michael, and he talks about this himself, but he is just pure energy.
Yeah.
This guy is a sunshine person. You cannot speak with Michael and not feel great afterwards. There's just so much charisma there. But not just charisma in the way that a lot of people have charisma, which is there's really no character behind it. He's a very character-driven person.
Yeah.
He's just got so much energy and so much personality. There's a really lovely connection between you two, obviously from your relationship, but also just you bond and you vibe. Obviously about the whole Nigeria thing, about how you were raised, about sort of beliefs and expectations that come with that, but also how you're setting waves and breaking free from the traditional approach of what's expected from you. So I love this conversation. He's also someone who's working in one of the most respected pre-IPO companies in the world, which is Clari. And he's got an amazing career today. And I know that he will have an amazing career moving forward just because he is the kind of person who you cannot fail but to love to spend some time with and want to hear from. Knowing that you know him so well and that you had this great conversation, what did you enjoy most about this episode?
We haven't really talked about work stuff or like careers or anything like this. So I got to know Michael a lot better through this whole process. So I really enjoyed that. Just hearing his journey, hearing his story. And yes, he is my country folk. And so we had some really good things to talk about with that. One of the things I really loved was even how he got to Clari. He did a bit of an unconventional thing. The job didn't exist before he started working there. He basically convinced them so that they need this role. This is what I'm going to do with it. And then he's just smashed it pretty much since that point. So yeah, it was just awesome hearing a different side of Michael, because in our interactions, like I've always known, okay, this guy's good, but just really understand like how good he actually was. I was like, okay, this is dope. So really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely right. Yeah, and that story that he's going to share with everyone about how to go and create something that doesn't exist, which is something that I've done before. It is a brilliant life hack. So please stay tuned for that part of the conversation and let us know what you think of it. We cannot wait. Obviously, make sure you subscribe so you can meet a new mentor every week. But without further ado, let's roll the VT.
Michael, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you on. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So the first question is, what makes you tick?
Impact on people. That's what makes me tick. I run a couple of initiatives that are near and dear to my heart. And I think for me, I get the biggest kick out of knowing I'm impacting or transforming or helping to change in some way, in a positive way, hopefully, the lives of people that may be out there. Like my academy in Nigeria, for example, is a good example. Everyone's going to be like, yeah, like they want to change their family's life, like, which is for me as a dad and a husband, that's always first priority. But I think for me, I get an extra kick on impacting the lives of customers that I work with, the boys that I'm looking after and back home in Nigeria. So those are the kind of things that I would say make me tick. And I'm just like super hungry to see them transform their lives in some way and whatever impact I can have on that.
But what's your earliest memory of impact?
I think my earliest memory of impact. So I'm in tech. I work in tech, and I love teaching. I'm kind of entry level SDRs how to do things better, right? And I think my earliest memory of impact, I used to teach this SDR class to over 200 students, and it was how in my classes I have a particular topic that I focus on. A particular element in prospecting, for example, that I focus on. And I think for me, seeing these young adults that come from very similar backgrounds to mine, hear my story and how I came from essentially very similar background to theirs to where I am now, and them being really super fired up, hearing that story and wanting to learn more and learning the skills that I've acquired over the years to get me to where I am today, what I earn. For me, it's like my earliest memory of impact. I remember just watching their reactions, and I just really felt good because I'm like, I'm making a difference here. I'm helping to break the glass ceiling here for a lot of these young adults who are essentially the same skin tone as me. And for me, I feel like that's my responsibility, being a minority sales person or sales leader, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know where I am at the moment, but essentially my job is to put the ladder down for people that look like me, to help them to get in the industry and have the same opportunities that I did to change their lives, which is what tech's done for me. Tech's been transformative to my life. So I want other people to experience that.
That's awesome. And I think it's so important to keep that door open for the people that are coming behind us. So you mentioned about working in tech. So how did you first get into tech?
So I left university in oh my God, I'm old. It's a long time. I can't remember when I left uni years ago. And my initial career goal was to go into sport. I'm highly competitive. I'm super passionate about football. So I had been studying to ultimately get to a position where I was maybe coaching at a professional football club on a first team level, potentially management. I was going down that route. That was my dream goal. I realized that it doesn't actually pay as much as you think, especially for coaches, especially as you're going through the levels. Up until, unless you're really working at the top level, you're not really going to really truly enjoy the fruits of it. So I think that when I was leaving, I graduated in sports management. So I studied sports management, and I didn't really know what's that career, what can I really do to help me really start earning high. Anyway, I put my CV on CV Library. Long story short, I put my CV on CV Library. I got contacted by a recruiter that got me into recruitment industry. So my first job out of uni was banking, financial services recruitment. And that's when I learned the trade of really hard work, selling, business development. That's why I really learned those really initial raw skills. And I've just been developing those over the years. I've been in some form of sales. I've done door-to-door sales when I was 16. We've all done that crazy job. That's commission only. You don't get paid unless you sell some stuff. And those kind of jobs build so much character. They build so much resilience. And looking back at it, although at the time, it seemed like I suffered quite a lot, walking 8 hours in shoes in Croydon and walking back home, nothing, was definitely very character building. I tell you, I built those initial soft skills. In those kind of roles, and I'm so glad I did, because then after being in recruitment, I then fell into business development, cold. So I was learning how to really cold call clients and do one call closes, and then I went into SAAS, and then I've just been in SAAS ever since.
So talk to me about one call closes.
Okay, so one call closes are essentially, you pick up the phone, you have a person you're speaking to that is a decision maker, they have the budget, you have a product that they're super interested in, and you're essentially on that call. Your job is to understand their pain, understand what they're trying to achieve, their initiatives, how your product can tie into those initiatives, how your product can solve their pain points, help them to qualify them as to whether they hold some kind of budget, and make the hard sell and just go for it and say, hey, let's make it happen. And that's what one call close is. You pick up the phone to a client that doesn't maybe even know about your product, or maybe has a certain idea about your product, to putting that by the time you put down the phone, you're putting an order through. So that is what a one call close is. And that is aggressive. It's as aggressive as it gets, right?
So with SaaS, it's a bit more relationship, a bit more longer term. So what are some of the skills that you use from that one call close and the things that you do now?
So that's a good question. I think not a lot. I think for me, it's the ability to listen. I think that is the number one most important skill I think that I use in my current role today, is the ability to listen and ask really good discovery questions and actually just shut up and let the customer speak, right? You can't do one call closes if you don't have the ability to listen, and also the ability to ask really good discovery questions to get to the really deep pain that's going to drive the customer to do a certain action, or for the call to end up in the outcome that you want. So those are the two main things I'll just put into two buckets, is those. And I think, of course, just asking for the business. Fundamentally, every salesperson needs to ask for the business. So I think that's also my core skill that I've taken. I know how to ask for the business. I know how to get someone to commit to buying. So those are the those are my top three: listening, asking really good questions to understand the customer really, really well, and asking for the business.
And so what was your first tech role?
An SDR at a company called Dynamic Signal, which was an employee communications and engagement platform, employee advocacy platform at the time. So yeah, entry-level SDR. That was my first role.
Was tech what you thought it would be?
I didn't know what it was. So I had no expectations going in. I just knew the money was great. That was it. Money was awesome. I went from earning, I don't know, man. My first job out of uni, I started earning 20K a year.
Okay.
Then it went up in increments, went to like 20. Then the next job was like 22. The next thing was like 25. And then tech just took me to 52. I was like, oh my God, this is the life. This is great. I love this. But yeah, that was the only expectation I had, was I could make a lot of money here, right? It's really so funny because coming from a Nigerian household, right? I feel like the holy grail of any Nigerian son is to be able to say, I make more than my parents. That's like the greatest holy grail. It's great. It's the best thing you could say. Like, you feel like you've made it. You feel like, yeah, do what I want now. But yeah, tech afforded me an amazing life.
And how did you get away with not doing medicine, law, accounting, one of the big four? How did you get away with not doing any of those?
Even my mom wanted to choose the university degree that I did. She wanted me to do human resources. I didn't even know what human resources was.
Okay.
I didn't have a clue what human resources was. At that time, I was like a sports freak. All I could think about was football. When I heard HR, and she was like, and then we're going back and forth. I then disagreed. And then Nigerian parents, everything's just like extreme. So she called the whole family meeting just to talk to me about human resources. I was like, what a waste of time. All right. I'm not doing this human resources. She knew I wasn't a very academic person per se. Like, I wasn't going to get away with doing medicine. I would probably have suffered depression at university if I did that. Neither did I really have the patience to do law either. I just want to just argue with someone, win the argument and move on. I don't want to
read all the books, do all that.
Yeah. I don't like reading huge pieces of text and forget it. So that just wasn't me. So yeah, I guess I got away with it because I was just super stubborn, and I'm still super stubborn now.
And when in your career did you start leading people?
In Dynamic Signal, I was leading people. I was leading the team of SDRs there, and I was also responsible for field marketing in Europe. So yeah, I'd say I was leading a team of maybe 6-7 people at one time.
And what's the biggest team you've led so far?
I think when you start to manage 7 to 8 people, I just think you just become inefficient as a manager. Like, you can't give what they need to all of them in a really intense way. And I'm an intense person. Not like, when I say the word intense, like, I'm not like, like, I'm more an intense person. Like, I give a lot of energy. Yes. And I just feel like managing a team of 7 people with just kind of person I am, I want to give all my energy to my people. That should be like the limit for any leader. Like 7 to 8 people. Like, when you start managing 12, 13, like you run out of, you spend your whole day, your whole week just doing one-to-ones. You won't have time to do anything else. You just need a 7 to 8, 8-to-1, that kind of ratio, 8 reps, 1 manager, like, it's max.
And how did you learn about leadership? What were some of the big lessons you had to learn when you started leading people?
Managing up is super important. Managing up is super, super important. Motivating, knowing what motivates your team, it's super, super important. Just from my experiences, I felt like the SDR job is so difficult. It's tough, really tough. And I think that as a leader in tech, you should definitely prioritize getting to know what motivates these individuals, because to turn up every day and do that job, you must be crazy, right? Rejection, like, it's hard. It's hard. Like, being an SDR is really hard. So I think that you need to know what motivates them, so you know what makes them tick, so that they can turn up every day. I think you also need to be able to manage up quite well, because obviously leadership above you will have expectations, and you need to understand what those expectations are and just being able to manage them really well. Otherwise, if you just say yes to everything, you're going to lose your team and you're going to burn out as a leader. And of course, I think for me also, just the way that you communicate your expectations to your team, like, it's very clear, there's no ambiguity. They know what they need to do to get to the next level. If they're looking for promotion, if they want to kick on in their career, they know exactly the metrics they need to hit. And I think that's also really important, because what you don't want is if you sit down and with your team and you ask them, do you know what you need to do to get promoted? And they say no, that you're not doing very well as a leader. That's just my personal opinion. So your team you need to create a really clear path to get to where they need to help them get to where they need to get to. But I also feel like, on the other hand, you need to manage the business. So essentially you need to have the roles open. If your SDRs want to become AEs, like you've got to make sure the business has and is invested in creating a path for them to become AEs. There's no point hiring them and saying, oh, in a year's time, if you do really well, you become an AE. But actually, in a year's time, when they're having that conversation with you, you're coming up with an excuse, right? Oh, the roles are available. Do you get what I mean? Like, you just don't want that. So that's something that, as a leader, you have to figure out with the business.
And who have been some of the best leaders that you've worked for?
All my current ones. Okay, so I think going back to the beginning of sales, like my recruitment, like big background, like it was tough love. But I think at the end of the day, like, we don't remember managers for necessarily how they make us feel in certain moments. We remember managers for the impact that they've made in our lives, like how they helped us to develop as a person. Like I remember and I love managers that have helped me to build resilience, helped me to have tougher skin, helped me to really develop qualities like that, because you need it in tech. And I think my first manager really helped me to do that. Was, oh my God, like tell you, my first role was crazy. Like, this HR wouldn't allow this to run today, but it was so character building. So I remember I used to make mistakes, maybe that first initial role. And like, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but in sales, like, recruitment is so boiler room. So there were times I would get absolutely roasted on the sales floor. Like, it's 100 people hearing your manager like roasting you, telling you how bad a job you've been. They're pure, and you just want to hide. You just want to crawl into your rock. You want the ground to open up, and you want to hide. That is how I felt last year, quite a lot. And then, so that was that manager. Like, he didn't have anger issues, but when you, oh my God, I'm having some real serious flashbacks right now. Oh my God. So yeah, he didn't have anger issues, but when I made a mistake, and it was a mistake that cost him money, oh my God, like, that is not a place you want to be. That is not a room. Just run. Go to the toilet and just sleep in there for a bit. And then I remember when I got into a company called City Jobs, I remember my manager there, awesome guy. Like, he's the one that really started to teach me the art of listening, the art of asking questions. Really liked him. But then again, oh my God, because it was one call closes, for example, if I was about to close a customer, but I didn't say the right thing, or I interrupted, or I just didn't execute the action in the right way, God help me. God help me that day. Literally, as soon as we dropped the phone, he's Irish. And oh my God, if an Irish is cussing you out, you feel it, right? He was just cussing me out, swearing. I've been through some traumatic events in my sales career, man. No wonder I've lasted this long. It makes sense. Because nothing phases me anymore. Nothing phases me. Like, when managers just lose their head, I'm just like, okay, I've been there, done that. So yeah, I think those managers, although, as I said, they wouldn't fly with HR now, because they would always come back the next day and apologize because it was just inappropriate. But I feel like those moments, I feel like you just need to experience them.
I was going to ask, do you think it needs to be like that?
No, it doesn't need to be like that. But I think maybe because of the kind of person I am, because of my background, how I grew up, being Nigerian, any Nigerian listening to this know that I've never met a Nigerian that grew up and didn't get beatings from their parents. I just don't know. I've never heard of one. So it's just one of those ones where, just the way I grew up, it was just like, okay, I'm not a tough guy physically. I'm not a big tough guy. Like, I'm not physically imposing. But mentally, I feel like I'm tough. I'm pretty tough out there because of just what I've gone through, and it's just built this character and this resilience inside of me to withstand a lot of things. One, pressure. I hold a number every single quarter, and it starts at 0. When I was doing transactional sales, I held the number. It was every month. So I've been carrying a number for only God knows what, the last 8-9 years, right? Since 2015, right? I've been carrying a number, and I've had to deliver on a number. So it doesn't need to be like that. And like, that management style probably wouldn't work for someone that's working in admin, or someone that's working in HR, or someone that's working in accounting. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, the nature of our role in sales is we are accountable to a number, and with that comes an intense amount of pressure to deliver on that number. So that obviously brings out certain microaggressions from managers, right? Because they want to hit the number. So everything has to be like super perfect and to give them a chance to fit in the number, right? I don't know. What's a job I don't know. Every kind of job, I'm trying not to be like offensive, but every kind of job out there has that kind of pressure attached to it. But like someone like just typing up paperwork in the back office doesn't necessarily experience the same pressure that I do. Do you get it? And so that kind of like aggression and management style wouldn't work for them. They'll just be like, bro, are you all right? Or they'll just quit. For us in sales, we're in it for the money. So it's either you just suck it up and earn good money or you quit. That's the only two options you have. That's how I've been raised, dude. So you kind of just have to suck it up. But luckily, I don't have this kind of leaders now. I have, first of all, the two managers I was referring to were male, so it completely makes sense about those microaggressions. My two leaders now are females, and they are a lot more nicer. They have their own like aggressions, but it's not like traumatizing, right? It's more like like they're trying to help you, like, but it's not like busting you on like a sales call or like killing you on like a sales floor like that. I've never experienced that in my current company, and I never will, because those are not the kind of managers I have, and that's not the kind of culture that we have. So yeah, it's just sorry, the long-winded answer, but I just had to give that context because it's really important for people to understand why I experience certain things, etc.
I think the times are very different between when we first started our careers, because I'm maybe a few years ahead of you, but like when we started versus now, I think there's been a lot of really good progression in terms of people understanding, like, for me, so I'm Nigerian too, as you can tell by my name. And you're right, there is so much that comes from being Nigerian in terms of toughness. Yeah. And this is what people who aren't Nigerian, maybe I'll help you to understand. Yeah. If many Nigerian people know this feeling. Yeah. Let's say you got 95% in an exam. Yeah. Amazing. What will your parents ask you? Where's the other 5%? Let's say you come second in the class. Yeah. It will be, who came first? So they have two heads. Why can't you be first? There's a lot of things and expectations that come with being Nigerian. And I'm personally very grateful for it, because it breeds a lot of toughness, that mental toughness, that resilience to come back and say, okay, I thought I did well, but maybe I didn't. Let me go and do better. You have to bounce back. Right? You can't be like, no. So my mum tells this story of how she didn't understand maths, and her dad, it was tough for her for not understanding maths, but my mum got it, and now she's good at maths. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that we grew up with. So I think that toughness is a really important thing. And I think that when we started our career, toughness was gotten by, you shout at people, you give them tough love, you have to give them the pain so that they then become tough. What I love about now is that people are understanding, yes, you need to be tough. Yes, you need to be resilient, but it's coming about in different ways. And I think that's an amazing change that I've seen over the last 10, 15 years in terms of people understanding there are different ways to make people tough.
Yes, yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. They are. Would I change the way that I was made tough? I don't know. Because I feel like you just, I don't know. It's such a good question. And I maybe even need to think about it, because as I continue my career as a leader, I would never shout. Like, I would never shout at my team. I wouldn't even get away with that. But I think maybe all I can do is just actually appreciate my background. Like yours, right? Just appreciate what I've experienced, how I was brought up, and just this generation is different. Like, they don't do all of that. Don't shout at them; they will screw you. Don't do it. But I will never. I guess I will. Maybe I just need to learn how to breed that kind of similar toughness, but in a much more appropriate way, in a way that's acceptable in the workplace. If you know what I mean? Because the way he was breeding it was not acceptable in the workplace.
And I've been quite blessed in that I had a bit of a hybrid upbringing, right? My parents had all the expectations and things like that. I don't really remember my parents shouting at me about it. I remember them challenging me a lot. You can do better than this. But I don't ever remember angry shouting, or I never got angry beating. Some people get the angry, you've messed up now. I remember my parents would send me to my room, bring me back downstairs, give me this is what you've done wrong, this is the punishment. So I think there's definitely a way that you can absolutely get that grit and that toughness into people, but not from that place of anger. And I think as a leader, it's about understanding like the people that you have in your team, what works for them, because like for you, that worked. Like for you, you've got some of that toughness already. So when it comes, you know how to be resilient. For some people, they don't have that. That will crush them. So I think that is, for me, that's what leadership is about, figuring out the team that I have. Like, how do I push them? How do I challenge them, but not break them at the same time?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So how are you growing in leadership at the moment? So what are some of the things that you're doing to become a better leader?
Reflecting, learning from my current leaders. I think when I say reflecting, it's just reflecting on who I really am as an individual, what I need to change, what I need to do better. But also I do a lot of just watching how my current leaders are, the good things I like, things I maybe don't like, and I just pick what I like and don't pick what I don't like. A lot of kind of online training, online courses like with Pavilion, that's also very useful. So again, 3 buckets are self-reflection, watching the examples I have, and also doing some courses.
So what are some of the things that you've picked from your current leaders that you like?
I love how they get in the trenches with you. That's always been a big deal for me as a leader. I love so there's those leaders that are leaders, but they aren't examples. Like they don't really get in the nitty gritty, get their hands dirty. I'm a get your hands dirty kind of leader. That's the leader. That's the kind of fundamentally I'll always be like that. Get your hands dirty, help my team, etc. But the leaders that are maybe just so far removed and maybe choose that's maybe not what they want to do. But what I really like about my leaders today is they just get their hands dirty. I love that. I absolutely love it. They don't teach you. They don't tell you what to do without showing you how they do it. And I think that is so important because there's so many leaders out there that'll be like, this is how you negotiate. But you've actually never seen them done it. You've never seen them do it. Or there can be so many examples, or this is how you prospect, but they don't prospect. It's just if you want to earn, like one of the quickest way to earn the respect of your team is to go in the trenches with them and show them how to get things done. Essentially, leading by example is a big value, like for me. And that's always the kind of leader that I want to be, always leading by example, always being in the trenches with my team, always being there when they need me.
And what has been some of the most challenging things about being in tech sales?
I'd say those are the toughest things about, and also depending on the product you sell, that can also make things harder. Like when you sell a product that is very hard to get clear ROI, very hard to get the value quickly, that can be really hard. And so that's the third thing. I'll add the fourth one is some people just can't handle the pressure of just being accountable to a number, quarter of a quarter, month of a month. Some people it's just not for them. It's not for them. They just can't do it. Like you can speak to some people and you say sales is like a horror word. It's like a horror film to them, right? It's like they will never do it ever. So sales is not for everyone. And that's what's tough about it. But it also makes you feel a little bit special that you're good at this stuff and you get paid really well for it. Do you get what I mean? But yeah, that's so rejection, economy. There's the third one I mentioned. The product. If you sell a product, it's really difficult. And sales is not for everyone. Just the pressure of having a number.
So what's the product you sell at the moment?
So I sell a revenue platform that essentially empowers revenue leaders to have complete control and command of their business, to have visibility into the revenue performance of their business by segment, and just really help them to accelerate growth, efficiency, predictability, to very quickly see and get a handle on what's working, what's not working, how they can course correct, and essentially to just get super accurate with their business and their forecast. So in a nutshell.
Cool. And how did you get into this company?
It's one of my favorite stories because I think a lot of people could learn a lot about how to approach the job market through it. So there was no job. I didn't apply for this role. It was coming to my time was coming to an end at my previous role before Clari. And one day I went on LinkedIn. I was just scrolling as I do. And I saw this picture of our, at the time, VP of Global Markets and our, I believe, COO, just one of the person leading operations. And it was a picture of our current office in Sunnyvale, empty. And then something just kind of clicked in my head. They're trying to fill this office, so they must be hiring. Of course, I'm not going to go and work in California. I live in South London. It's not happening. So at the time I was living in Kent. So yeah, Kent to California, that commute is not possible. So I then messaged that VP and I said, hey, I saw your picture. Think you guys are hiring. Do you have any office in Europe, any presence in Europe? And said, yeah, speak to my obviously managing director at the time. His name was Van, awesome guy. He was leading the international expansion in the UK. And he's just been doing it for 9 months to 12 months. Just been doing it for a year, or maybe not even a full year. And then I said, okay, I emailed Vernon. We got him on a Zoom, got 20 minutes of his time. And I approached that call really proactively. I came with a vision board. I came with a plan, a 90-day plan as to what I was going to execute on in my first kind of 90 days. Now, if I was to do that again, I'll more do it in 9 months, a 9-month plan.
Okay.
And so he was super, obviously, I'm here because he was super impressed about our first call. And I remember at the end of that call, he said, Michael, keep your job. Keep your job. So funny because I didn't know like that week I was going to be made redundant. It's okay. He said, keep your job. And right now there's no headcount. I'll let you know when we have headcount, etc. And then guess what? 24 hours later, there's headcount for this role that I pitched, right? This role that I pitched to him that didn't exist. And
Wow.
I think just escalated pretty quickly to C-suite. He got approval for headcount. And then from that first time I spoke to him and the weekend, I think I spoke to him on a Monday. I think by the Sunday I was flying out to their sales kickoff in Orange County in California. That's how you get a job, people.
So wait, so did he create the job because you pitched it, or how did that work? Or was it already in the work? Wow.
Yeah, no, there was no plan to hire my role. Not anytime in the near future anyway. That's why he told me to just keep my job. There was nothing I was applying for. There was no headcount approved. There was no job spec. There was nothing. So I came to him and I said, hey, this is what my role is going to look like. I want it. Give it to me. Why? Because you need someone like me. You're selling. You don't have... He wasn't a pipeline generating, prospecting guy. I was at the time. So it was a really good fit.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah. I told you it was a good story.
Yeah, you did.
That is how if I want a role, if I was looking to move on, that is how I would approach it. I've talked myself out of spray pray approach, applying to jobs that I'm super specific about. I'm very clear about what I want to do in my career next and the impacts. I remember going back to the beginning, I want to make impact. So I'm very clear about how I want to do that. And I know the kind of company, the stage I want them to be at so that I can have that very clear impact. So yeah, I wouldn't be applying for jobs. If I do, it has to be a really good one.
So what's some of the impact that you've been proud of at Clari since you've been there?
Taking the company from when I joined, we weren't 0, 0, 0, but we were more like 2 customers, 500,000, maybe a third, maybe 300K ARR. So we're now 100 plus customers, 110 customers and nearly 10 million ARR. I've contributed close to 35 to 40 customers single-handedly to our business in EMEA. Contributed around more or less close to $4 million in TCV to our business in EMEA. I've had an incredible impact on our culture in EMEA as well, and I've got really strong brand equity. So at Clari, those are the impacts I'm really proud of.
And you mentioned that you were a prospector, revenue generation. So what are some of those things that you've been able to do? Don't give away too many secrets, but what are some of the things that you found effective in prospecting and the generation? I'm
a phone guy. Give me a phone, I'll do the rest. And for me, that's how I did single-handedly, I generated about 6.3 million in pipeline through the phone in my first year at Clari.
Because I feel like in this current climate where technology, AI, automation is like a huge thing, you can't really automate the phones. So how does that scale? Because that's quite a lot of scale. So how do you get to that scale where you can't automate it? You have to make the phone calls.
Yeah, you can't. You're absolutely right. You can't. Like AI. I even saw a LinkedIn post today. Some guy posted on LinkedIn. Apparently, ChatGPT is going to do a bunch of. Oh my god! I actually need to read it to you. So I'm going to get it out. This is so unexpected. I've just got to read it. So it's this guy posted on LinkedIn. It's with OpenAI's latest release, you're going to fall behind if you haven't delegated or aren't implementing the following. So there's ICP GPT, which is GPT data on your customer profile.
Yeah.
And you can quiz it on how your ICP might use your product. Then there's account GPT, which essentially, if you're trying to crack a big account, you can upload all the account information and it will tell you how to crack it. Then there's Sales Manager GPT that you can upload transcripts of your sales reps, and essentially this thing will give the reps instant feedback on what was good or not good on that call. There's Qualification GPT, which if you're running a qualification framework like Medic or BAN, you'll be able to get a score on your deal. There's Email GPT. I could go on. But yeah, that is the world we're going into. I don't know about you. I've not paid for, I've never even thought about paying $20 a month for ChatGPT subscription. It's not, I am refusing to jump on a train. I'm refusing. Because I just feel, at what point do you just do nothing? You just become lazy and you lose your edge, you lose your sharpness. If AI is going to do everything for you, AI is going to help you prospect. Do you get what I mean? Like, you got me. Like, okay, cool. If the theory of practice makes perfect, or to become a master at something, you need to do it like 1,000 times or spend 1,000 hours on.
I think it's like 10,000 hours, right? 10,000 hours or something like that. Yeah.
If you just automate everything and let AI do everything for you, and you just sit on your bed sipping a pina colada, how are you going to get better? That's the first thing. And if you aspire to be a leader, how are you going to teach other people to get better? You might as well just tell your whole team to, hey guys, just pay for $20 subscription to ChatGPT. We'll do everything for you. I'll expense it, and that's your coaching done. I can live in Portugal, Lisbon for the rest of my life on retirement and just get paid. Sorry, I'm just not jumping on the bandwagon. Now, of course, I really, maybe you should even use this clip as a trailer and post it on LinkedIn. I'm going to get so trolled by the LGBT lovers. They'll tell me, oh, that's crazy, you're behind times. I'm not. I just feel like I just rather do the work. I just want to, I'm Nigerian, dude. Like the soul of me is hard work. Imagine trying to teach someone how to use ChatGPT. You're lost, mate. It's like trying to, I don't know, be like trying to teach a dog how to sing. Mom doesn't even know how to open a computer and go on Microsoft Word to type stuff. Imagine ChatGPT. Hell no. So no, for me, I want to work hard. I want to earn my stripes. It's great that you can automate so many things with AI. I might jump on the bandwagon soon, but not to that extreme of allowing AI to think for me. I'm just trying not to get there. I feel like it's just a dangerous place to be. But of course, other people have this perspectives on AI, and it's great, and kudos to them. But I'm just not there yet.
I feel like AI makes someone who's like great able to scale something massive, right? So I agree with you in terms of I want to keep my sharpness. I want to still understand. I still want to know and have the stripes. What I'm wondering is, so with ChatGPT, so I have been on the bandwagon, sipping the juice a little bit, right? So I'm not fully there, but I'm dabbling. And what I found quite cool is that you can say to AI, write me a good script, and it will write you a good script. And you can say, what makes my script good? Yeah, and it will tell you theoretically or from its experience, this is what makes it good, this is what makes it bad. So that's where I like, in terms of if you can have an intelligent conversation with it, you can ask it things and access things that I would never know because I just don't know it, but it's got access to more things. So I agree with you. I don't want to get to the point where it just does everything for me, but I do want to get to the point where it can enhance me that bit, give me that extra edge that I might not have been able to get to myself. That's how, for me, if you want to be great at what you do and not just passable, that's, I think, how you can use AI and things like that to enhance. But you still have to be good. You still have to know the rough principles, because some of the stuff AI tells you is rubbish. It's not perfect.
As I said, I think I'll jump on the bandwagon soon, because the pressure from LinkedIn gurus is coming hard. But I also feel like I don't have the time.
It creates time, though. That's the thing. It does create some time for you. It can do things better.
Maybe I should get an AI thing that creates time on my calendar. But maybe that'll be like. But yeah, I totally agree with you. There's definitely some gains to it. I just need to be in that mind frame to actually be, okay, I'm ready for this. I've also have to convince myself that, this is actually an extra $20 a month. Do I really need this?
Oh my gosh. So just as we close, we do what we call Tickfire questions, which is basically like quick bunch of questions, like around a minute to answer. So the first question is, what's the difference between a good leader and a great leader?
Empathy.
Cool. What are the top 3 things that you hire for?
Curiosity, grit, and authenticity.
Okay, cool. What would you say to the version of yourself that's starting your career? So like you in whatever year you graduated uni.
Be patient, play the game.
The reason that I ask you this is because I'm a big fan, pusher, encourager of playing the game, because I feel like that is one thing that our Nigerian upbringing does not give us, is that understanding of that there is a game. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing, but you have to understand that there's a game. We're told work really hard and your hard work will speak for you. No. Your hard work will not. No, you have to play the game. You have to tell people that you've done good work. You have to build the right relationships. You can't just face your books and work hard. There is a game that is to be played. But sometimes when people say play the game, it has negative connotations, but it's just understanding humans and knowing how to influence. That's the game. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Agree. And I feel like that is one thing that limits our people. They don't even know that there's a game, and they complain about it, and they complain about glass. Yet there is one, but if you know how to play the game, you overcome that and you smash through it. But there is a game, guys, and you got to play, and you got to play it well. And I think I've played it really well on my current role. And part of it, and it's not a bad thing. It's actually not a bad thing. I think it keeps you accountable to building a really strong brand, a really strong personal brand. It keeps you accountable to having a standard of excellence in everything you do. It keeps you accountable to making sure that you're visible and your work is visible. It keeps you accountable to always communicating your goals and where you want to go and being very clear about that.
And the game, everybody has to play the game. It's not we're saying that because we're black, you have to play. No, everybody plays the game. But you have to understand how to play the game. Like all those things that you mentioned, be clear, be excellent, be accountable. All of those things are things that everybody should be doing. So it's just like you have to learn how to play the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
If you had to define the impact that you wanted to have, what would be the 3 words that you would use to define your impact?
Legacy outside of work, by the way. I would say be known to be someone that's kind to everybody and always willing to help. And last one, be known to be someone that always delivers.
Love it. Michael, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for listening to the What Makes You Tick podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed shooting it.
Absolutely. There's so much value in hearing a tribe of virtual mentors telling you their career story and what it took to be successful. And that's the outcome of this podcast. If you like this and you've learned something, we also have a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn called Growth Magnet, which is everything to do with scaling tech startups, performance and leadership. So we'll put a link in the show notes. Make sure you click it now.